what I want to talk about and what the listeners are going to get, what you're going to get in this episode is we're going to talk on can you use power and can you also maintain your own integrity? Because a lot of the times people find those to be conflicting in some way of they hear manipulation, they don't hear anything that is descriptive, prescriptive that can improve their life. Robert, how would you define power? What does power mean to you?
Well, power is a tool. It's totally neutral. Like a hammer, you can use it to build a house, or you could clobber someone over the head and kill them with it. So power is simply a tool. It's neutral. It is neither good nor bad. It can be used for evil. It can be used for great good. But power is a sense of having control over the immediate environment, over events that are occurring in your life. So to use this, to flip it around to the negative, if you sense in your daily life that you have no ability to influence your children, your spouse, your partner, the colleagues at work, your boss, the people in your company, it's a miserable, miserable feeling. You have no power, you have no control, you have no influence. You can't tell people you tell people to do something and they don't listen to you, right? Or they do things to you that kind of block your path, and you have no way of getting them to stop this. That feeling of powerlessness is something that human beings cannot endure very well. And if you feel powerless for very long, something's going to warp inside of you psychologically. You're going to turn inward. You're going to become resentful. You're going to become angry. You're going to have pools of anger, developing inside of you deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're not going to have control over yourself. So power is the first sense of control is over yourself, over your emotions, so that you're not always reacting and getting angry, so that you have a little bit of detachment. So when it comes to those situations where you need to move or influence people like your children, your spouse, your colleagues, your boss, you're able to step back a half step, a full step, couple steps, and think and go, what is it that will actually move that person in the direction that I want? How can I actually influence them effectively so they don't hate me, so they don't resent me, so that they actually do what is in my interest without maybe even realizing it, or that the interests align in some way? So that is power for me, right? It begins with yourself. It begins with a sense of detachment from the events happening to you. And it's the ability to strategize and think in each situation in life. This is a move that will gain me a little degree of control over events. You can never, ever have complete control. Life happens, things happen, pandemics happen, black swans happen. You can't control everything, right? But that little bit of margin of control is enough to kind of help you glide through life a little bit more smoothly.
When I think of power, I think what you said is a perfect definition of it. The one's ability to control or influence another's behavior, maybe including even their own. You have the personal power, you have relational power, like who in the dynamic might have more influence over the other between husband and wife or partner. And maybe there's political power, the ability to influence others, the ability to write laws, implement laws socially. And what I find, the people that I get to talk to are always looking for power of themselves and how they're going to improve their life. And where I teach is communication and the power of words. And this is why I really like, there's a number of the laws that you have out that are specific to communication, like using less words in particular. How do you find that communication and power intersect?
They're obviously completely intertwined. So, but communication has to be strategic. Okay. And that's the problem that a lot of people have in this world. They think if they just talk, if they just say, this is what I want, this is what I need, please come and help me, that's communicating. All you're communicating is your insecurity and your needs. True communication is effective. It's strategic. Other people are naturally resistant to helping you or to aligning themselves with your interest. Everybody has their own problems. In the world today, we're all stressed. We're all working too hard. We never have enough time, right? So you talk to me about what you want. Okay, I'm kind of half listening, but you're kind of irritating me because you're just spewing things from your side, right? True communication is what I was saying before. You take that step back and you put yourself in the other person's shoes, right? You get out of your own head because you're so self-involved that you don't realize that your words are just landing nowhere. You get out of your head and you go, I'm dealing with another person. They are not me. They have their own problems, their own wishes, their own issues right now in the present, right? What is that? What is it that is going on in their head, in their world? Sometimes you have to do some research. Sometimes maybe you know them well enough. Maybe you don't know them at all, but you have to figure that out. It's a puzzle. Once you figure out their side, not your side, what they want, what they need, now you have some power to craft what you say to actually influence them, to appeal to their self-interest, which is one of the laws of power, one of the most powerful laws of all, right? So if I say something and I'm trying to influence, I'm trying to move them like on a chessboard in my direction, right? If I say something that appeals to their self-interest while it's also helping me, their eyes will light up, all those defenses that they have will start to go down. So communication is absolutely worthless unless it's strategic. And always say less than necessary is important because the natural tendency for a human being without self-control is just to spew words, just like verbal diarrhea. This is, my problems, my life. This is what's going on with me. This is what I need, blah, 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 right? Just shut up, talk less, and think more about what the other person needs and craft your communication strategically.
I wrote a book recently, and it's hard not to, I can't imagine writing a book and not having pieces of yourself in it. When you were writing this book, what was coming up for you in your own life? Are you just studying these elements of influence and control and power? Is it something that you were writing to yourself or for other people? Where did that come up for you?
Well, it came from two things. First of all, a very deep desire to help people in this world. My books, I think very, very deeply. I'm working on my 8th book now, so Power isn't my only book. But I think very, very deeply of my audience, right? It's a form of communication, to get back to that, right? And I want to help people. I want to help people deal with their problems in a real way, not just to satisfy my own ego. So I have to think about how my words can actually be absorbed into your daily life. So that's one side. The other side is the book came from a lot of pain, right? So I entered life like most people, kind of naive, kind of innocent. I wasn't a good player naturally, necessarily at power, right? I made mistakes. I talked too much, probably. I outshone the master, right? On and on and on. I could go through a laundry list of the things that I violated. And I didn't realize that the world is political. I thought when you enter the work world, what matters is having results, is getting things done, is doing things well. But no, I had many, many, many painful experiences, particularly working in the film world. But as I've said in many interviews, I've had 50 different jobs in my life, more than 50, in all different aspects. In every little possible avenue of life, I've had a job. And I suffered deeply. And I suffered deeply from the sense of people are so political. Their egos are involved in everything. You can see their egos as they walk past you, right? I would notice in the office that there was these hierarchies. I worked for a while at the magazine Rolling Stone. And there were these hierarchies. There was the boss, and you could just see this massive ego walking back and forth. Then there were all the other the smaller little people working right under him and their egos. And there was little me in the corner as a copy editor, little tiny, tiny little ego. But that's what mattered. That's what made things run, was how well you impressed him, how you talked to the boss, in this case, Jan Wenner. And I thought, this is silly, but this is the real world. And you have to take the real world seriously. You have to succeed in the real world. So the book came from deep pools of pain from my own mistakes and from a deep desire to help other people, because I feel it's the source of a lot of depression and misery in life. You know, you say something or you do something thinking that you're on the right track, it's going to help you. And the next thing you know, you're fired or you're demoted. You don't know why. I felt, you know, I see people around me having these problems. So those are the two strands of the book: a deep desire to help people and a realization that the world is political, full of egos, and that mistakes are very costly and painful. And I made plenty of them.
Yeah, well, you're not alone. We've all made a lot of mistakes. Looking back at it now and knowing the impact of the book, and I want to talk about the book specifically that you're writing and going to be releasing soon, is for those who haven't read it, or those who might go, you know what, now that I've listened to this episode, I want to pick it up again. Maybe they have it on their shelf. I haven't looked at it in a while. How do you find, and especially being the one that wrote it, that this topic can also be very healing?
I get a lot of emails from people that, you know, it's helped them, it's turned their life around, or they've started a business because of the book. Of course, you know, it's anecdotal, so I'm sure there's a lot of stories out there of people who've been hurt, who've been on the other side of the manipulation. I understand that. But what's healing and liberating is to finally have that little light turned on inside of your brain that this is how the world works. I didn't realize that. I thought what mattered was just being myself. I thought that I could just do my job, say the things that I like, dress the way that I like to dress, just be myself, and it was enough. And no, I'm suffering from it. And just seeing that little switch go on in your brain that no, the game is different. It's played differently. There are rules to this game. You can't just come in and play poker and just do whatever you want. There are rules for poker. There are rules for chess. You don't know the rules. You're just playing terribly and you're suffering. And just that little bit of switch inside going, maybe I'm entering this game. Maybe I'm from the wrong angle. Maybe I'm being too selfish, egotistical. I'm too self-absorbed. And I'm not thinking enough about the players in this game. That little switch of your perspective, of how you look at it, can be deeply healing and enlightening, because it's not natural to us. As I said, it wasn't natural to me. So I think in that sense, that's what has helped a lot of people who, like myself, enter the work world a little bit innocent and a little bit on the naive side.
If you enjoyed that clip and want to see the rest of the conversation, you can click right here. Or if you want to see the latest episode of the Jefferson Fisher podcast, click right here, and I'll meet you there.